just because it's getting a little out of hand, as all trends do. Sometimes people may obsess over numbers, so being obsessive hitting that amount of fiber and eating fiber, almost introducing it to your diet too quickly. So it's this two-way communication pathway. So what you eat definitely affects how you feel. And that's why gut health is such a huge thing now. People are realizing, oh my gosh, what I'm eating is actually affecting everything that's going on. People often report when they adopt this 30 plans a week, they have a more relaxed relationship with food just because they're focused on adding variety rather than restricting. So making those little conscious swaps at the supermarkets just sets yourself up for success in your home as well.
Welcome to Healthy Families with Healthy Food Guide. I'm Jenny de Montauk, Managing Editor of Healthy Food Guide magazine.
And I'm Min Saw, accredited practicing dietitian of Healthy Food Guide.
So nice to have you here today, Min. We've got an interesting show coming up. This is another one of our special episodes. And what I wanted to talk with you about today and get your expert advice on is this trend of fibre-maxxing that I see popping up everywhere. And I have to say, it's something I'm pretty excited about. I don't know, it's a big TikTok trend. And following on from that is this other topic of getting 30 plants a week. It seems like an awful lot of plants, and I would like to know whether you think that this is something that we should be doing. So let's dig in.
Yeah, for sure. For decades, Healthy Food Guide and pretty much every single dietitian has been promoting the benefit of fiber. And now it's finally getting its moment, which is really good news that it's becoming a trend and people are adopting these strategies to hit more fiber. Now, with the trend of fibre-maxxing, though, just because it's getting a little out of hand, as all trends do, sometimes people may obsess over numbers. So being obsessive hitting that number of that amount of fiber and eating fiber, almost introducing it to your diet too quickly. And with that comes, symptoms like bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and relying too much on ultra-processed foods with fiber-added ingredients. Those are the problems it comes with when people obsess over, hopping on a trend.
So protein has been the macronutrient du jour for the last couple of years. With practically everything having protein added to it and people obsessing about protein. I'm quite interested in this, that perhaps maybe this year, instead of protein, fiber is having its day. And fiber has always been a bit tricky because it's a bit of an unsexy subject. It's, you think about bran and those sort of cereals that your grandparents eat. We've always at Healthy Food Guide had trouble kind of framing it in a way that gets people excited. So I'm really interested that people are now thinking about fiber. So what is fiber?
Yeah.
And what does it do for us?
So fiber is essentially the part of the plant food that we cannot digest. So it passes through the gut and feeds our gut bacteria. So what it does is it helps keep our bowel movements regular, it slows digestion, so it promotes steadier energy levels. So you find if you have some fiber-rich foods, then you feel much more energized and less of a crash. It also helps manage cholesterol and blood glucose levels. And good intake of fiber is also linked to lower risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. So we for sure know fiber is amazing for us. And with the current trend of fibre-maxxing, what is actually fibre-maxxing? It's essentially a play on the word.
What is this fibre-maxxing?
It's a play on the word fiber and maximizing. So, the gist is trying to get as much fiber as you can in a day. So fibre-maxxing, how much fiber can you hit in one day? That is the ongoing trend at the moment. And it has its pros and cons. So as a dietitian and at Healthy Food Guide, we've been promoting fiber for years, as you mentioned. It is the unsexy nutrient because it's boring, it's bland, it's not exciting like beef tallow or something catchy like that. So that's why it's hard to convince people to eat. But everyone knows to eat their greens and have more fiber. Everyone knows that. It's not as appealing or enticing to people. So I'm actually really happy that this trend is happening now, fibre-maxxing, and it's actually getting people excited about fiber, which is so good.
Yeah, because with protein, it's always fascinated me because protein itself isn't really something we don't get enough of naturally in our Western diet. We kind of get enough protein. I think obviously it's good to try and make sure that we're getting it throughout the day rather than just having it maybe all at dinner time or something like that. I think that there's definite benefits to having some focus on protein, keeps you full and all of that sort of stuff. But fiber is something, as I understand, that we just haven't, people just generally don't get their daily fiber targets. What are our daily fiber targets and how many people are hitting them?
Yeah, good question. So our daily fiber targets for women in Australia and New Zealand is actually 25 grams a day, whereas for men, it's around 30 grams a day. So it's slightly higher. And the reality is most adults fall short. So with the stats I pulled here, about 70% of Australians and Kiwis are not eating enough fiber. And that's why fibre-maxxing, it might be good news because it might just get people interested again to, really focus on this fiber thing and getting that number up.
What foods contain fiber? Where do we find fiber?
So oftentimes when people think of fiber, they only think of fruits and vegetables as the sources of fiber. But in reality, there's actually 5 main types of food categories of fiber. And yeah, those are your vegetables and fruits, but also your grains, more specifically whole grains, which is your whole grain bread, your brown rice, your soba noodles. And also nuts and seeds, those are a great source of fiber as well as your legumes and beans such as lentils, chickpeas, and kidney beans. Yeah, and nowadays companies also fortify food and beverages with a variety of soluble and insoluble fiber to, boost that little bit of fiber in them, in fiber content, and also increase their nutritional value. And these are, you can see them on food packaging labels. They are your inulin, the acacia gum, or resistant maltodextrin.
Okay, so this is a bit, I guess, like the protein that we're seeing everywhere. It's like protein bars, protein popcorn, protein ice cream, whatever. So they're actually adding fiber to processed products, I suppose, to increase that. Okay, that's interesting. So what are the types of fiber? I understand, you've got, there's a bunch of different kinds of fiber that have different roles. Is that right?
To simplify it, we break it down to 2 types, which is insoluble and soluble fiber. The insoluble fiber is the one that helps kind of make your GI tract go a bit smoothly. So it kind of helps you digest things a little bit better. And with that, it's really important to drink enough water because water works well with fiber and it does work well together to keep those bowel movement regular. You can't have fiber working without water. So that's really key. I think a lot of people forget having them work together is really important. And then we have the soluble fiber, which adds bulk to the stool. So if you have some diarrhea going on, maybe your dietitian would recommend having some bananas or some sweet potatoes because these are the soluble sources of fiber that adds bulk to the stool. So it's more regular, to improve the regularity of the bowel movement.
I've been hearing about something relating to fiber called resistant starch. What is resistant starch and what do we find that in?
Yeah, so resistant starch is kind of a process starch goes through to get to a fiber-like structure. So it happens when you refrigerate starchy foods. So if you cooked rice and refrigerate it or pasta and refrigerate it, when it's cooled down, these, particles go through something called retrogradation and it kind of changes the structure a little bit and it increases the amount of resistant starch in these carbohydrates, which lowers the carb amount of these foods and essentially is better for your blood sugar levels. So for someone with diabetes, a good hack would be, refrigerating your rice before having it or making fried rice because that just changes the composition of the rice a little bit and it's just better for your blood sugar levels.
So eating cold potato salad, cold pasta salad, and maybe cooling and reheating rice, you'll get more benefit than you would just eating the rice straight out of the rice cooker.
So even after you reheat it, so even after you chill rice and you reheat it, it's still going to have the resistant starch. It's not going to go back to normal. Yeah, so don't worry about having to reheat the rice after you chill it.
Brilliant. So with fiber, I mean, what does it do? I understand that it helps promote your gut health. So beyond just like having regular bowel movements, which is I think what we usually associate with it, it's food for gut bacteria, isn't it? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so fiber is much more than just keeping us full or, promoting regular bowel movement. It's also really good for our gut microbiome, which is, our gut's kind of little world in there. And what it does is it produces these anti-inflammatory compounds and just gives us a wide range of health benefits just because different types of fiber feed different bacteria in our gut. And when we're eating this variety of fiber, it's feeding the different types of bacteria. So it's essentially thinking of a team, like a team in your gut. You're having all of these different team players rather than just having one star player. And if that one star player gets injured or wiped out by some antibiotics, maybe your gut is, kind of not as well off. Whereas if you have these different team players that have their own skills or different benefits, we have that well-roundedness and just the diversity of microbiome that keeps our gut healthy. So we don't have to stress about one player falling sick because we do have that wide range of it. Yeah, does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, these foods that you're eating that have got fiber in them, you eat them, and then your gut bacteria has a go at them as well. They eat them and do what they do, and have more sort of fiber that you're feeding them. The more variety you're going to have of gut bacteria, which gives you benefits because if some of them get sick, you've got these other backup ones, and the more variety, the better.
Yeah, and the gut is often called the second brain just because our gut and brain actually have this thing called the gut-brain axis. And it's a two-way communication pathway, and you're always talking to each other. So you find sometimes when you're stressed and your mind's just not in the right headspace, your tummy, you get butterflies or you get bloated or you feel nauseous. And that's just because your brain is sending signals to your tummy saying, oh, I'm not feeling good. And that's why your tummy is also not feeling its best. And it goes both ways, like when we're hungry or had too much food. It sends a signal back to our brain saying, oh no, like, let's go get some food. I can't focus anymore, or I'm feeling so sluggish. So it's this two-way communication pathway. So what you eat definitely affects how you feel. And that's why gut health is such a huge thing now. People are realizing, oh my gosh, what I'm eating is actually affecting everything that's going on. So they're being more conscious of what they're putting in their bodies and really focusing on improving that gut health. And with that gut health, what we've known for years is fiber. Fiber is amazing for our gut, and getting a variety of it makes a happy gut, which gives a happy mind.
You mentioned some of the benefits of fiber. Obviously, it's really good for our gut health, keeping a healthy microbiome. It keeps us regular. Why? What does it do? What's this link between chronic disease and fiber? Does it help with cholesterol? Is that right?
Fiber is just really good for us. It has just so many health benefits. It reduces a lot of risk of chronic diseases. It improves immune function, reduces inflammation, and it's just better for our metabolic health. So like I mentioned with cholesterol, fiber actually helps reduce the bad cholesterols in our diet. So if someone with high cholesterol, it would be important for them to be mindful of the amount of fiber they're having, just because having that extra fiber will help reduce that risk. For someone with diabetes, it's also important to have that fiber throughout their day, just because it helps stabilize that blood sugar levels and prevent the spikes. So fiber essentially is like an amazing nutrient that everyone should be having more of.
So fibre-maxxing, then, you'd think would be a good thing. What are people doing to fibre-max? On social media, it's obviously a trend. What are they actually doing?
Well, what people should be doing is really focusing on the 5 food groups, like I mentioned before, and getting a good range of types of fiber in across all these groups. Just because, like I mentioned, different types of fiber feeds different gut bacteria, which makes a happy gut. That's ideally what people should be doing. However, with all trends come downfalls, and sometimes people get too obsessed with it. So what essentially fibre-maxxing is counting how much fiber you can hit in a day. And some fruits and veggies actually don't contain as much fiber. So people are resorting to fiber-enriched products, like I mentioned earlier. And these products are usually, processed and manufactured and fortified with extra fiber. And essentially what people are doing is they're introducing fiber too quickly into their diet, which has its downfalls just because when you're eating more fiber, it should be a gradual increase into your diet just because it helps your body tolerate it a little bit better and process it a little bit. As I said, fiber is not something that's digested. So if you're like pushing all this fiber into your body without giving it time to process it, it goes, oh my gosh, what's happening? Yeah, so what people are actually doing now is introducing fiber too much too soon and obsessing over hitting that number instead of what's actually good for their gut. So it's not exactly the ideal scenario. Yeah, so relying on a lot of ultra processed foods with fiber enriched ingredients is what a lot of people are doing right now.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that's always the trap, isn't it? I mean, I'm really pleased to see that people are taking an interest in fiber, but it's like anything, just do it sensibly. You just eat more fruit and veg, eat your whole grains, but maybe don't go too heavy on the ultra processed things that have got loads of fiber added to it, and introduce it slowly. If you're somebody who hasn't had that much fiber in the past, but you're wanting to get up to hitting your daily targets, just introducing it slowly and drinking water along with it. That's what I'm hearing you say is, yeah.
Sure. And with fiber, we want to prioritize the 5 fruit groups, like I mentioned. And some easy ways would be aiming for half a plate of veggies on like my plate model, aiming half a plate of veggies when you're having your meal and leaving the skin on veggies when you can. So washing them thoroughly and then leaving them on will add that extra bit of fiber. And if it's like an apple, it's so fine to have the skin, or a kiwi fruit. You can actually eat the skin of a kiwi fruit when cleaned properly, and it just boosts that extra amount of fiber, and it's so good for us. And they keep us fuller for longer, so it's not just about aiming for that perfect number of fiber. It's also how we get those fiber and how they make us feel. Another good way to add more fiber to your diet is actually making your own fiber mix jar. Have you heard of that?
What's this?
Yeah, so essentially it's a jar, and then you can add whatever nuts or seeds, so maybe some almonds, some chia seeds, some walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and you make your own almost like trail mix of nuts and toppings that you can add to your yogurt bowls or oatmeal bowls just to add that extra bit of fiber without overthinking it. And it's so good because it adds that variety, that diversity like we spoke about earlier. And it's just an easy way to sprinkle on a bit more nutrition, adds a nice crunch to your bowls as well, which I really like.
That sounds really delicious. I'll definitely be trying that.
And also, if you do want to just have more fiber without overthinking it, when you go to the shops, just making those easy swaps. So if you usually shop for white bread, going for the whole grain bread, just because you know that whole grains give you a bit more fiber without you even noticing it. And buying brown rice or quinoa brown rice instead of just white rice. And yeah, just going for the healthier snacks like popcorn instead of chips. So making those little conscious swaps at the supermarkets just sets yourself up for success in your home as well. So when you reach for a snack, you know it's a high fiber, healthy option.
Yeah, so is that just a kind of, those are such simple swaps and they really sound like they make a difference. And then you wouldn't even need to be thinking about it really.
Exactly.
If you're just doing that.
That's the goal. That's the goal. We don't want to be stressing about nutrition all the time. It's all about setting ourselves up for success. So we're in an environment that is just good for our health. So anyway, fiber is great for us, and focusing on fiber is amazing, but obsessing over fiber is not. Because it's not the amount of fiber that matters, it's also the variety and the source of fiber. So instead of depending on just fiber supplements or the processed fiber bars to hit your fiber intake, it's more about focusing on the whole foods you can have and the variety of fiber, the different types of fiber. So you don't have to track the numbers so meticulously. Like I mentioned, those simple strategies earlier, adopt some of those strategies and make those changes into your diet, and you'll find the biggest difference.
This is definitely related to fiber, but I'm just really interested in obviously the American gut study. which is a really big study in the States that's all into, they've had lots of people send in samples, and they've done a really, really good amount of research into gut health and the gut microbiome. And obviously we've mentioned that with fiber and supporting a healthy gut microbiome. But the American Gut Study suggests eating 30 or more different plants a week, and that is essential for creating a much more diverse gut microbiome. And I just wanted to know, when I hear that 30 plus plants a week, I eat a lot of vegetables, a very plant-based diet, but it does sound like a lot. Do you have any tips on how we can be eating 30 plus plants a week?
Yes, I do agree. 30 sounds like a lot, but keep in mind that's across the entire week and not just in one single day. So it's really not too hard to achieve at all, especially when you think back to the 5 different food groups, because oftentimes people misinterpret plants as just fruits and veggies, when in reality, it's also your nuts and seeds, your legumes and beans, and your whole grains, and which are easy add-ons to fiber with these 30 plants. So a huge misconception of hitting 30 plants is that we have to eat so much food. Like 30 plants, that's so much food. And that isn't true at all, because what we're trying to aim for is variety. So we can keep the portions the same and just increasing the variety. An example would be, instead of buying the frozen broccoli, we go for the mix, the broccoli, cauliflower, carrot mix. So essentially half a plate, instead of having half a plate of broccoli, we'll have half a plate of the broccoli, carrot, and a cauliflower. And that's an easy way to get 3 plant points, because each veggie is 1 plant point. And that's already 3. So just making those simple swaps can just add a bit more variety without increasing the portion too much. So you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to eat so much food to hit that amount. And yeah, like I mentioned, it doesn't just have to be vegetables. Just like I mentioned, the fiber jar, just sprinkling a little bit of that little fiber jar mix into your yogurt bowls or smoothies adds so much variety, just because you can have so much different types of nuts and seeds in that jar. And each type is actually 1 point. So if you have a mix of walnuts, almonds, chia seeds, flax seeds, that's already 4 points just sprinkled onto your breakfast bowl. And that's an easy win. That's an extra 4 points. How good is that?
So it's not just vegetables and fruit that are plant points that you can get plant points from, which I love, by the way, plant points. That's cool. That sort of gamifies it a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Nuts, seeds, what whole grains, like does
Whole
bread
grains
count?
Yeah, bread definitely counts, and brown rice, quinoa, that all counts. Or opting for a whole grain rye cracker would be a better option than opting for just like your average cracker.
So it's not just your fruit and veg that you're getting your plant points from. It's actually anything that's derived from a plant. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. And the little swaps we can make, right? Like I mentioned before, buying the mixed variety of veggies. So instead of going for a baby spinach pack, going for the slaw mix, where there's at least 4 or 5 colors in there, and each color is a plant point, essentially. So I like to think of it like that. And also just buying mixed nuts instead of just a single nut. So having the variety of it adds more diversity into our diet. And when it comes to beans and legumes, buying the 3 bean mix instead of just chickpeas. That's an easy way to add more plant points into our diet and just mix for a healthier and happier gut.
Love that. So it's really just focusing on increasing the variety of what you're eating. You don't have to eat more. You just need to eat more variety. So when you go to the mixes, mixed nuts, mixed frozen veg, mixed bean mixes, all of that, and you'll be able to do it without really thinking about it.
Yes, exactly. And that's an easy way to get a variety source of fiber, which is so good for us. And I think we can also count plant points together using fishbowl as an example, just to give our audience a really good idea on how to hit that number as well. So I have an example here, which is the salmon OG fishbowl.
Great.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's at some point tried it in their lives. So this bowl has salmon, kale, beets, edamame, red onion, roasted sesame dressing, seaweed salad, shallots, and tobiko. So, your very standard poke bowl. And because it has those little colors, it's it's not a it's not a large portion if you've had fishbowl, but because it has those variety of plants, you can actually hit 7 plant points in that one meal. So when you're building your meal, it's important to think about what can I add to it to add more color, or like what nuts or seeds can I add to it to add more variety. So even prioritizing just adding more variety is such an easy way to just hit 30 plant points a week.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could basically eat a different fish bowl for each meal and you'd almost eat like 30 plants in one day.
Pretty much. Exactly. Amazing. And, with aiming for 30 plants, the short-term benefits people may notice would be, like I mentioned, with fiber, it's better bowel regularity, less bloating once the gut adapts. So not introducing fiber so quickly, introducing it gradually will lead to less bloating, and also gives you more energy and just more satiety and feel satisfied throughout the day. Long-term wise, if you have been adopting 30 plants a week for some time now, you will notice better gut health and immune function, reduce inflammation, so you may feel just less stress overall, lower risk of chronic diseases, and also improved mental health and mood. Yeah, like I mentioned, gut-brain axis. If your gut's happy, your mind's happy. So it's just perfect. And people often report when they adopt this 30 plants a week, they have a more relaxed relationship with food just because they're focused on adding variety rather than restricting. So they're always thinking about adding, not restricting. So what can I add to this meal to just make it more nourishing, a bit better for my gut? And with that mindset comes that flexibility with food. And also, you're just focusing on the right things rather than fixating on the wrong things. So it makes food more enjoyable and less boring, more colorful and happier.
Beautiful. I love that. I think it's so important. And it's such a positive spin of what can we add? What can we, that's that sense of abundance. What can we add more of, rather than what do I need to cut out? This food's bad, that food's bad. I mean, it sounds like it's not just healthy for your gut and for your body, but also for your mind and your relationship with food, which
100%.
is beautiful.
100% spot on.
Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up for today. Thank you so much, Ben. That's been really interesting and so informative. And I really hope that people have learned a little bit more about what fiber is, what it does for your health, where to get it from, and also maybe if they're going to give fibre-maxxing a go, they also might like to try getting 30 plants a week, because it doesn't need to be that hard from the sounds of it.
Yeah, just remember getting fiber, focus on getting it from whole foods, getting a variety of it, and also drinking enough water with it. These 3 are the main things you have to remember.
Perfect. And for getting 30 more plants, just go for all the mixes and eat bowl food.
Exactly.
Okay, well, if you were interested in this topic today, we talk a lot about fiber at Healthy Food Guide and about how to get 30 plants a week. So if you want to find out more, head to healthyfood.com or pick up the latest issue of Healthy Food Guide magazine.